We have Sergey on the line from Canada, goes by he, him, and he wants to know, how does secular humanism fit into objective morality? So, Sergey, happy to take your call. And you are on with Tom and Jimmy. Go ahead. What's your question?
The question is as states, how does secular humanism fit into objective morality? I had a conversation recently with a theist about how objective morality stems solely from his book. He believed in the biblical God and the Abrahamic God. And so it stopped me. From what I understand, objective morality, well, as defined, is a universal understanding of what's good and what's not. But I already knew all that even before I even read the book, and I used to be a theist myself. So what I'm trying to understand is, how would secular humanism fit into it? Because I understand it at a very, very basic level, but I cannot express it to how do I explain it?
No, we got you. No, I think we got your question, and I'm gonna kick it over to Tom, our wonderful co-host for today, and see what he wants to dig up on that.
For sure, I'll kick it back over to Sergey. Sergey, when you say objective morality, I think we know what you mean, but how do you define that?
It's, as I read, it is. Crap! I had the definition in front of me a little while ago, but objective morality, as I've read and understood, is a global understanding and a universal understanding of morality, of what's good and bad. If I understand the definition correctly.
Okay. Very good. So it's a global understanding of morality that we all share, or that we could all share, because it's objective, right? It's based on some other thing. Yeah. So I guess how would taking one book and saying that that's the objective way that we're going to do it, how would that relate to if I say, no, it's this book over here, this one's the objective one?
Well, because that's what the person with whom I was having this conversation believed. He said, the Bible is all, the book is all, it is the fallible word of God that came into existence through the fallible word of man, but his word is infallible to begin with.
Right. So
it must be absolute.
Yeah. So I guess, like, if I were to just say, that's great, you have that book over there, mine says the same thing. It says my God's infallible. How are we going to sort this out?
Then we would be having an argument who's got the better God.
Right. So there's got to be a different way. Right. We can't just go on the books and say this book says that, and therefore it's true.
Correct. If your book says it's true, but my book is different, but it says it's true, then either both books are true simultaneously, which is a logical fallacy, or they are false.
Yeah. Shoot darn it. So, like, what do we do next? I guess you're kind of calling. I know you're calling, like, on behalf of, hey, I had this conversation. Is your question like, how do I take it to that next step here?
Yes.
Like, what's,
as I understand, secular humanism is understanding that we have no need for a higher power to have morals. But this person tells me, well, we do need a higher power to have morals because our book says so. And it has said so for the last 2,000 years or so.
Yeah. Maybe it's, but yeah, maybe in that, I guess I just have like two instincts. One is to say, like, oh, shoot, darn it, my book says the same thing. How are we going to figure this out? And it would probably be, all right, we got to put both of these to the side and come to some sort of way of the how we get to the truth behind objective morality. If we can even agree that that's a thing, that there is an objective morality to have in here. The second, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this, Jimmy, would be to just like, let's go into the book, though, and validate that this fits our objective moral framework here. Do we believe that slavery is good or bad? Yes or no? Right? Based on the book. What does the book say? And then how does that feel to us instinctively, right? If we think about being objectively moral, even though we're being subjective in that moment. Jimmy, what do you think? How do you address this common challenge?
Yeah, so I agree that the comparison for different claims, or excuse me, the same claims made by different people or different books, if you will, is a good way to kind of initially investigate that. But it's very seldom that somebody who is claiming that their religion or their beliefs are moral actually know what all of those beliefs and religion are. And experience tells us that. And so I do like Tom's idea of kind of, all right, well, you have determined, right, to the other person, the person on the other end of the conversation. Okay, you have determined that morality is based solely on the message that you have, the message that you're trying to give me. So now let's go through that message. And then we have to really judge the veracity of this person's claims based on the fact of whether or not they can adequately make those claims, describe those claims that or those beliefs that support that claim. I would say, though, getting back to Sergey's initial question real quick, I want to just plug this before it, falls off the old iceberg. Too many penguins on the iceberg, as they say. But I don't want to lose this. So I would say that I would say secular humanism is the thing that we do to try and get to an objective morality, even though the objective morality, from what we can tell, doesn't exist, because morality is incredibly subjective, right? Depending on who you ask, what's moral, what's not, you might get a different answer. You might get some different beliefs, some practices, traditions that all conflict with each other. I think, though, that we generally, as people, have the same basic needs, the same basic instincts, and the need or love of life, the want to survive or need to survive, we can really examine to try and find, all right, what is it that we all have in common that binds us together? Certainly it's not religion, right? So in that point, I would say objective morality is off the table when it comes to religion, because our religious messages are just not lining up. If anything, they're canceling each other out. But we have to kind of look at, all right, let's go the secular humanist route. Let's take religion off the table. What is it that's important to you? What is it that's important to me? Not that consensus really defines what's objective, but it kind of brings us closer together in determining how we can live together, share this tiny space, and get along. And so that's where I think secular humanism fits into objective morality. It doesn't solve the problem, but it's the alternative to these morality claims that don't seem to add up. But yeah, like I've said before, and something that I believe in passionately, you don't have to point to somebody and say, here's why what you believe is wrong, right? You don't have to add maybe emotion to that thing as much as you can just show why it just doesn't work, right? So Tom talked about slavery, and a lot of people will try and justify slavery in the Bible, but you don't have to say, well, you're stupid or you're wrong because X. You can just say, would you enjoy being a slave, right? And that is kind of a different question. That is kind of pointing out something different rather than judging the person or kind of characterizing their thoughts for them. Pointing to the fact instead of describing the fact to them, if that makes sense. I don't know, Sergey, how are we looking so far? I hope I didn't lose you there.
No, you haven't lost me. So far, I've tried to rattle this in my brain, and I think you've come to try to explain to me that the objective morality is the finish line, but secular humanism is the pathway to that finish line. Yet, the book, the Bible, says, "Oh, we're already at the finish line. We don't even need we don't need the journey."
That is a great synopsis. That is a great synopsis for what I just said. And I will caveat that with, that is what I'm saying, right? But I don't speak for all atheists, right? I can just give you my best perspective. And I think that morality may very well be a little bit more objective than we give it credit for, but we kind of got to remove those confines that pull us into thinking our way is the right way, instead of looking for, and instead look for a universal right way. But hey, great question. Great synopsis. Sounds like sounds like, you're prepared for the next conversation. I don't know. Tom, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Sergey, let me give you one other thing to use. And this is something that didn't come to mind until after Jimmy, you were talking. So there's a book by a doctor named Jacob Apple. Apple, I think is what it is. It's called Who Says You're Dead? Who Says You're Dead? And that's one of the stories in the book, but it's basically what's that?
Sorry, could you repeat the name of the doctor? I'm going to Google the name right now and have a look.
Yeah, Jacob Apple. And I'm not saying that I'm sponsoring this book or that the podcast here sponsors it, but the book's called Who Says You're Dead? And it's a collection of these medical ethical dilemmas. And let me give you one that you can check out there, but like you can read all of them. It's the most disorienting book you'll ever read because it's like 3 pages of a story with at the end going like, here's some thoughts on this side, here's some thoughts on that side, whatever, right? There's no answers in it. It's just, here are these situations. So one of them, there's 2 conjoined twins, right? And they unlike the ones you see in the TV shows, they don't like each other, not one bit. In fact, they hate each other. And they have very different beliefs about what it means to lead a meaningful life as conjoined twins. One of them wants to get separated and go on her own way. The other one very much does not. There is a medical risk in the separation procedure. They know that some significant percentage of people who go through this will die. Based on the Bible, what is the objectively moral choice for the doctors and the patients to make here?
Wow. Objectively moral choice for the doctors.
Yeah. Shit, right? I don't know the Bible's going to be their best resource to reason through this sort of thing. But like, is that not a moral question? Somebody could die. There's risks involved. And this is about life. Like if there's any one thing that we could consider sacred, it is our own lives, this thing that we're experiencing through our heads right now. So how do we make the right decision there? How does the Bible help us inform it? I don't know that it's been situated or is the right manual that I would use to reason through something as complicated as that. And good heavens, I'm glad that I'm not in the situation where I have to.
Yeah, the Bible fails a lot of tests. So do a lot of other religious books. Go ahead, Sergey. I'll give you a time to close us out. Go ahead.
Sort of from your analysis of the conjoined twins, you might be looking at what is the greater good in the end? What is the most benefit at the least loss?
Sure. And I would guess those 2 twins would have different answers about it, right? And it doesn't solve the problem for them.
Yeah. But yeah, again, looks like you cannot be objective in this.
Sure.
Each one would have its own benefits and its own losses. You're kind of looking at a sort of a seesaw of morality going up and down. Like, oh no, this, oh no, this.
Yep.
Wow, I'm stumped. I'm going to read this book, and I'm definitely going to get through this.
It is a collection of those where you will end every single one probably with the same thing and going like, well, that's unresolved. And then you move to the next one. So I'm interested in those sorts of things. And for like the insights behind them, how do you think about that? What makes one more right than the other? And in that case, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't want to, right? I just don't want to think about that.
Right. All right, Sergey. Well, I hope that was helpful. I mean, I think we had a great conversation. We are going to let you go and move on to some more callers, but continue to call in. And, I really appreciate hearing from you.